Sometimes you don't realize how old you are until they start reading a resume. I am very, very honored to be here with you folks. I am not a political activist. I've got a firm, RRC, and with another guy, we've got about 10 people in the firm. Welcome to go on the website and see what we're about. But basically, I've got a PhD in economics, and thanks to a bunch of you older folks here who helped pay for my education at Texas A&M, I decided that what I was hearing deserved me getting out there and using some of this education on our behalf. And I'm here for the same reason you're here, because I'm concerned about the direction of our country. We are at a crossroads, and I'm going to talk about two things tonight. It's going to be hard to do it in a thorough fashion. Healthcare and cap and trade, and I'll try to breeze through these. But I want to say we're at a crossroads in our country. In the healthcare area, for example, we have a lot of problems, and those problems are mainly caused by government interference. A lot of the direction that we have to choose from at the moment is, do we solve these problems by trying to get back to a market economy, or do we go toward total government control? And it doesn't matter what you're hearing. You read those bills, and I'm going to try to tell you tonight some of the things that's in them. They are after total government control of health care. And when I say that, I'm talking about they're going to control the procedures you get, they're going to control the doctor's pay, and there are many, many economic implications of this. And that's what I'm going to try to talk about a little bit tonight. But from an economic standpoint, the reason I got amazed with economics is what a market economy can do. And I'm going to be very brief. In College Station, where I drove in from today, there are apples in every grocery store. There's not a person going to sleep tonight worried whether those apples are going to be there in the morning. And that's the function of a market economy. It's not the function of an apple czar. It's not the function of an Apple's Choices czar. It's the way the market works. And let me... RRC, first of all, doesn't stand for anything. It used to stand for Resources Research Corporation. We made the filings, had all the stuff printed up. I wasn't there at the time. Got a notice from the state. Resources Research Corporation has already taken name. Oops, we got to shorten it to the RRC so we can use all the letterhead, so it doesn't mean anything other than it's an economics firm. Very confusing, too. Even confusing to me. What, if I can get this thing... Oh, I got to aim at the wrong thing here. No, this is supposed to... Well, used to work. This one right here, right?
No, this one.
Oh, no wonder. Duh. Okay. This is where we're headed to. Please take a number for health care. Let me explain just some basic stuff here. What is the cost of health care? Think of the price times quantity, where price is some index of all of the prices of all of the health care services you get out there, and quantity is some index of them all. Here's the market as it exists now. It's not perfect, but there is a particular quantity of health care services being offered, and there's a particular price. A second here, I'm so blind now. Here's the laser. This demand curve right here is downward sloping. It says at the lower price there's more quantity demanded. At the higher price there's less quantity demanded. It's the opposite for supply curve. In the healthcare industry, this supply curve is very, very important to us, because that's the supply of doctors, the medical professionals, and everybody that are offering their services to us in this marketplace. And they don't have to, by the way. Here is what we're proposing by expanding the health insurance to cover a whole bunch more people. The point of this is, I'm going to show you the implications of this, to why rationing is absolutely inevitable, and rationing by government bureaucrats is absolutely inevitable if this stuff passes. What you're going to have is an increase in demand Because one of the programs, for instance, President Obama mentioned last night is, we're going to control the co-pays. We're going to make sure the co-pays are real low for everybody. Well, that means that the price is going to be very low at the margin for those seeking health care. But you add the numbers and you're going to have an increase in the demand for health care. What would that do in a normal marketplace is raise the price to P2, and that's what induces the greater quantity supplied over time. New doctors enter the profession, etc., and you have a higher quantity of health care. But look at the cost. P times Q goes up. There's a huge extra cost to this. And what the government's going to do is say, yikes, that kind of cost is way too high. What we've got to do is come in here and impose lower prices like they do in Medicaid and Medicare. And by the way, I've got a daughter with Rett syndrome. If all of you don't know what Rett syndrome is, it's worth investigating. She cannot talk. She can't hold a glass. We got a letter from her doctor not too long ago, so we can no longer see her. The Medicaid reimbursement is too low. So I'm not here as a rich person unconcerned about all of the government health care. The point is, what the government does is they come in and they think everything is just this big pie that's not going to change. They'll come in and say, gee, we're paying too much for doctors, so we'll just impose lower prices on them. And if there's a doctor here, you're familiar with this. Medicare and Medicaid are subject to it, and they'll introduce price controls. And herein lies the biggest problem that's not being talked about. That quantity right here in the marketplace is determined by the quantity supplied. The quantity demanded is way up here at this price. You have a whole lot of people wanting medical care at the marginal cost that they're going to have to pay. But the problem is the quantity supplied falls. Doctors say, hell, this isn't worth it. Basically, there's not profitability in the medical profession to attract new people in. And you have a decrease in the amount of health care being provided in the economy due to these price controls. It's not as severe now because you have the private market picking up the tab on these government programs that are suppressing the price. You put government in charge of it all, and all you've got are these price controls. And this is a huge impact that will impact all of us. The quantity supplied right here will dictate what's in the market. When you have an excess demand in a market economy, the price goes up and gets rid of it, induces more supply. When you have an excess demand with price controls, you have a shortage and it doesn't go away. What does this graph tell us? It says there's going to be a shortage of health care at the price offered. There is rationing of care by the government. But they don't even have to say a bureaucrat's going to ration it, because you're going to be waiting in line for doctor appointments and you're going to be waiting to see the doctor. If they say, well, you need to go to the hospital, you're going to be waiting in line to go to the hospital. There's a reduction in the supply of healthcare providers. It gets worse and worse over time. Pause as it refreshes. For some reason, doesn't want to move. Yeah. I didn't make up these numbers. I saw this. It's cute. Probably every one of you has seen it. But the point of the confusion last night during the talk is that this 47 million uninsured that has been spouted for months and months and months as the crisis includes 12.6 million illegals to get to the 47 million. Secondly, what's also confusing about whether it covers illegals, there have been 2 amendments that I know of submitted to Congress that are the people writing these bills saying we will not allow illegals to be covered, and the Democrats have voted those down. Here's a few myths. We have a healthcare crisis. We have problems, but I have a hard time. Crisis isn't an economics word, but let me tell you why I'm not sure it's appropriate here from my personal standpoint. A lot of the people in America are happy with their health care. We can make it better, but health care costs are rising partly for good reasons. We have the best health care in the world. It doesn't matter what they said last night. The politicians in control right now are saying, oh, gee, we're spending 16% of GDP on health care, and health care is just, we spend more money than the other countries. Well, you know why? We're wealthier. I love health care. Without health, a lot of other things go by the wayside. You have to be a wealthy country to afford the type of health care we have. The United States of America is the source of innovation in healthcare equipment that the whole rest of the world gets subsidized because we've got a market economy generating those things. And the drugs. It isn't Canada generating the drugs that work. The issue about whether they ought to buy them at a lower price, I'm talking about the drugs are made in the U.S., not Canada. The other thing that you will hear is every other industrialized country has health care but the United States. Don't confuse insurance and health care. I know for a fact Houston hospitals are full of people that aren't paying. The other thing is the ratings of these international services that rate the health care in the nations. The number one question is whether there's universal health care. Well, in the United States, we answered no because of the insurance. There's some people without it. Therefore, the U.S. right away falls to the bottom. But you don't nationalize health care because of that rating. That rating does not mean anything other than we don't have nationalized health care. The other thing that's so weird is last night I heard him say something about we spend all this money but for no extra health benefits. I don't know if there's a doctor going to speak today or not. I wish there was. But every statistic that I know of says the U.S. is better off than the majority of the countries around the world in survivor rates of cancer, all kinds of things. It'll be a long night. Government health insurance is just another choice. Truth, it'll be subsidized. Government will induce consumers and providers into this program. It's even more than restrictions on the private sector offerings. The government will dictate the nature of these policies. The private and health insurance will eventually disappear. When they say that bureaucrats won't get in between you and the doctor, I'm stunned when I hear something like that. First of all, you might not be able to get to the doctor very quickly because of the rationing lines, so the bureaucrat doesn't have to be there. But the point is, I can show you in these bills, both the Senate and the House, and we're talking about a moving target here. Nobody knows what the final one's going to be. But in both of those bills, after 5 years, each American must be in a qualified plan. Well, guess who determines what's a qualified plan? The government does. And that includes the grandfathered policies. All of a sudden, they have to be qualified. And what we're talking about here is government determining what is a qualified plan and what's not. Oh, this is a cute cartoon, I guess. There's a government health care over here. Don't worry, we'll have you up in no time. All we have to do is harvest these donated organs, but I'm still alive and perfectly healthy, not for long. Private health care. So this isn't even the cartoonists get this. You can keep your current health insurance. Sure. What if the employer cancels it? Because employers are going to be under severe pressure to offer health care or pay a fine, and the way that the government program will likely be subsidized, you're going to see a huge cancellation of employer insurance. This is an example of what I was talking about a minute ago, the government takeover of private insurance. In both of the Senate and the House bills, this stuff is here. In 1974, the ERISA Act, the Employment Retirement Income Security Act, allowed large firms to self-insure. This is where you might read about Safeway and Walmart and their health programs and what's good about them. In 2008, 55% of the insured workers are covered by these self-insured plans. Within 5 years, these plans have to become qualified with the federal government legislating what terms are going to be there. And they're going to be very different terms. Safeway, for instance, has a plan where if you're healthy, if you don't smoke, you don't drink 5 gallons every night, you have a different rate than somebody who does. If you're younger, you have a different rate than if you're older, and blah, blah, blah. These plans will be very, very standardized. And standardized, by the way, to make them pay, well, you can imagine what the rate's going to be. For young folks, it's going to be exorbitant prices because you're going to have to pay for my health care. Thank you very much. Under this program. Thank you ahead of time if we go this way. I hope we don't. Government mandated insurance for all will contain costs. Medicare is bankrupt. Medicaid's bankrupt. It's subject to massive fraud. There's no way that this government-mandated insurance and the way it's formed will contain all costs. And here's the huge difference that takes a little bit of the economics to explain. But a market works best. When I go into a grocery store and decide to buy an apple, I'm actually paying the cost of the apple. And then I can make a rational decision on what I'm consuming in relation to its true cost. In healthcare, I go in and I have these very little bitty low copays, and I may pay $20 for $150, $200 procedure. So therefore, my choices and the doctor's choices, particularly with tort issues, are very different to maximize the procedures that are given. And in this government program, it does nothing to solve that problem. The mentality of the people writing these programs is that this stuff just almost ought to be free. The consumers will seek care due to low out-of-pocket costs. They're not going to make decisions on the basis of the costs that are related to providing the care. Government will, in the face of these rising costs, try to contain costs by limiting care and lowering pay rates. The limiting care part is what President Obama was actually calling waste last night. If you listen closely, waste to Obama is not something. The commentators after the speech are saying, gee, if there's that much waste, why don't you just get rid of it and then we go on our way? That isn't the waste he was talking about. The waste he was talking about were procedures, the medical procedures provided that he thought were inefficient. That's what the waste is they're talking about. And they already in the stimulus plan have money devoted to studying which procedures are efficient from a cost standpoint. Which means that if they decide that the little procedure you want isn't efficient, then that's waste to them and you're not going to get it because they're going to be cutting waste. And in UK, waste, the inefficiency measures are related to the amount of time that you can benefit from the procedure in relation to the cost of the procedure. And there is where you get into the issues of the elderly like me getting a lot of health benefits cut. Because the number of years I can benefit from it will be less. Well, they'll know that you'll pay a lot of taxes, and then they're going to say, "Oh, gee, Hugh, you're pretty old here. Now, you know, this hip replacement really isn't going to benefit you very long. So, it's a waste. It's inefficient." This is what's going on in the UK. This is a system that they're trying to put into place here. I mean, it is in the UK right now. And by the way, this theory that I was showing you, this is nothing that's not understood by a whole lot of people. The theory says this will be government-dictated rationing, but you don't even have to worry about theory. All of these other countries that he mentioned, pick up a book called Lives at Risk, Single Payer National Health Insurance Around the World. If you want to study what's going on in those other countries, this is even on page 19 here. In England, with a population of almost 60 million, government statistics show that 1 million are waiting to be admitted to a hospital at any one time. They're just waiting lines. We have to do something about the problems. But what I'm trying to convey to you is the people that are writing these bills now are moving toward a total government monopoly control of health care in this country. That's what they want. That's what it's all about. It isn't even about making, if you've seen the arguments even change, it's changed from, oh, we got to help the uninsured. Now you hear, oh, we got to do this to keep these demon insurance companies honest. And it just changes around. They've been wanting to do this for years and years. Government can provide insurance to those with pre-existing conditions and force existing private insurers to do the same. This may, I say it's a myth, it may be true. What I'm talking about, the myth part is, and I want to be careful the way this goes down. I want to be able to explain this. What's happening in Massachusetts is this. I choose not to get health care because it's too expensive. I'll just pay the little fine that's on me. Gee, now I have a car wreck and I'm really messed up. So now I got a pre-existing condition now. Now I'll pay my fee to get back into the health care thing, and they can't reject me, and now all of a sudden they've got huge payments on me. As soon as I get well, I get out of the system. Pay a little fine for being out. But the biggest problem is that this whole pre-existing condition thing is tied up with the tying of your insurance to the employers. That's really the heart of this problem that's got to be erased. And you can erase it with market forces without a bunch of money being paid and without bureaucracies established. And that basically is get rid of the inability to buy health insurance across state lines, make the tax laws equal, where you can buy insurance and carry it with you. You can buy it in groups. You can buy it from anywhere in the U.S. And you can solve a lot of this pre-existing problem. In the transition period, we're going to have to do a lot of welfare and take care of a lot of instances that are bad. But you need to move to a structure that works. And the government control structure is not it, in my opinion. The question is, why are they against that? I'll answer as a citizen, not as an economist. I think they want the power, plain and simply. I mean, these people believe that the end all is government. When they're in control, all the money flows through them, and they control it all.
But there's no downside that you see in doing that from an insurance company.
No, to make the market in health insurance work like it does in car insurance and everything else, we've got to have consumer choice.
I couldn't come up with anything.
I guess it's okay to take a question, yeah.
Sure. Would you mind explaining to everybody why most people have their health insurance tied to their jobs? I've studied the history of this as a delegate to the Texas Medical Association, and you seem extremely well informed. I'd like to be educated.
It's tax driven.
No, it's driven by the labor unions.
Well, the labor unions don't want it changed because they've got these huge benefits like this, and it originally may have been. I don't know,
That was the original.
but that could very well be the original origin.
President Obama beholden to.
Oh, sure, the labor union, but they are not the reason why. It's been long standing that the insurance is tied with the employers is me, an employer, can provide benefits to my employees that is non-taxable. Yeah, and that's the current structure. And if you try to buy health insurance on your own, it's with after-tax money. And that's what's got to be changed to make the system work too. I'm going to switch off of this. The government has caused these pre-existing condition issues with employer insurance. Let me go over to a little bit of cap and trade. And by the way, a lot of the cap and trade that I was going to say is written on a form back here to pick up. And I really encourage you to do that because it can change what I do for you. It's right back there on the table, and that's basic. That everything on there is from reliable sources. I'm going to. This, by the way, is a true chart that Congressman Kevin Brady made up out of the House health care proposal. Those are the new bureaucracies that are going to be created to carry out this health care program. It's amazing.
That's real. That's not a joke.
No, this is real. This isn't a cartoon. These are actually even the proper names of the
Committees.
Yeah, this is the real deal. There's your Health Choices Administration with your Health Choices Commissioner. Okay, I'm going to skip. I'm going to skip this stuff right here if I can. Cap and trade. Let me talk while this thing's not working. Cap and trade is coming about because of an idea of global warming. I'm getting rid of this just a second. I'm going through this. Cap and trade.
Global warming real?
That is the key question. And let me turn to that question because that is not on your handout sheet. And that's really what I wanted to switch my talk to because you can pick up a lot of these slides back there.
That'll be the next one. You can come talk about global warming next time.
This is very, very quick. The constraints. First of all, a lot of people think cap and trade has something to do with Wall Street or something, and the Wall Street's involved. But cap and trade is basically this. Let me just do this while I'm on the slide. I'm sorry. This is economic rationale for doing something like this. It is theoretically a situation where you can have the consumption of a good that imposes a bunch of higher costs elsewhere. It'd be like dumping a bunch of pollution stuff in a river and destroying the river. There's nobody in the river to charge you for the use of that resource, so it gets destroyed, and we don't want